All right, welcome back to Mind and Magic. I had just dropped the Frater Hates the Poor mailbag video on YouTube, which had been on Patreon and Subscribestar for many months. And right after I checked my mentions in my YouTube account, and as coincidence would have it, there was a video there from like 9 months ago, which shows you how often I check such things, which seems to be on par with the topic. So I thought we would check it out and give my opinion on it.
There is this really prevalent view in a lot of online spheres that success only depends on your mindset and the work you put in. This view is also present in the occult community. A specific example that comes to mind is Frater Xavier from Mind and Magick.
All right, so I don't think he's using AI here because this video is like 9 months old. It could be text-to-speech. Now, I'm not certain about that, but it sounds a little robotic. So I don't even know if this is a real person talking, but we'll just act as if it is.
Now I like Frater Xavier, and I think he has a really great way of presenting the necessary mindset for magic. I would advise anyone starting out to listen to his lectures. However, there is a recurring phenomenon with Frater Xavier. Based on his mailbag videos, it seems like a lot of people criticize his views on material success. And in response, Frater explains that these people are unsuccessful because they are stuck in a victim mindset.
Well, not always. Some people just don't have the drive or prioritize being successful. I'll put it this way. Not everyone who isn't successful has a victim mentality, but almost everyone who has a victim mentality isn't successful. The exceptions being those who benefit pushing the victim mentality onto others, such as your race baiters, politicians who want your vote, so they tell you everything's not your fault, that you're a victim of the system and whatever and what have you. Those people can be successful with the victim mentality because they benefit from getting people to believe that they're victims. But not everyone who isn't successful has a victim mentality. It seems like you're accusing me of generalizing everything down to unsuccessful equals victim mindset when I'm not the one that made that generalization. You have.
He might be right in the case of these specific people. I've certainly seen people with terrible mindsets, unable to take any responsibility for their lives, having terrible thought patterns and an overall pessimistic view on everything. But I think a lot of times these things are much more complicated. It's not as simple as either having an extreme victim mindset or thinking in the right way.
Oh, it has everything to do with thinking in the right way, because the way you think dictates what you do. Right? You've heard the phrase, I think, therefore I am. Well, the way you think dictates who you are. And yes, who you will be. But you're correct in that it's not just as simple as a victim mindset. Some people have a victim mindset. Some people have a scarcity mindset. Others are just indolent, which is a nice way of saying they're lazy, because people don't like to be called lazy. And understand that people can be lazy with one thing and not with something else. They might be quite passionate about something else and even put hard work into it. But when it comes to other things that may make a tremendous difference in their lives and changing them, such as becoming financially independent by starting a business or what have you, they're not into it, and so they lack the drive to do it. So it's really more of a matter of priorities, of which their own success is a lower priority to them when it probably should be higher. But let's carry on.
This distinction is really simplistic, and it ignores a lot of relevant factors determining people's success. First off, you are not responsible for the circumstances you were born into. You are also not responsible for the way you were raised, and these things can determine your whole life.
Only if you let it. I mean, you're right. Nobody is responsible for what they're born into or how they were raised, right? It's not your fault if you're born into poverty, but it's 100% your fault if you stay in poverty. Excluding the charity cases, you're disabled, mentally handicapped, or those with mental or psychiatric issues. But if you're able-bodied and have all your faculties, then it is 100% your fault if you stay in poverty, which is a mindset. It's not your fault how you got there. It's only your fault if you stay there.
Acknowledging this does not mean you have a victim mindset. Secondly, people who think in this simplistic way often go as far as to say that the world is fair and rich people are all selfless and good people.
You're the one that tends to view it in that simplistic way. I'm telling you that it's not that simple. I mean, find me the video where I said it's your fault if you're born poor. I've never said that. Find me the clip where I've said it's your fault how you were raised. No, I've said the exact opposite. I've said it's not your fault how you were raised. So I'm not the one that has that simplistic view. I'm not saying these things that you're saying. So your video is based on a faulty premise because you have misinterpreted what I've said and now you're misrepresenting what I've said.
Because they are only rich due to their good mindset, which involves a positive and selfless attitude towards life and other people.
No, that's not what a mindset is. And I think we've found the basis of your problem. You don't know what a mindset is. A good mindset is not, it doesn't have anything to do with your outlook towards the good of other people. A mindset is a collection of beliefs, mostly subconscious programming that keeps you doing the same things over and over again because you're executing a program. And those things keep you in poverty. Now, that's not to say that your outlook doesn't have an effect. It has a tremendous effect, right? Because if you see yourself as a victim, like the victim mentality that we're talking about, then you play that out as a victim and self-sabotage because victims aren't successful. They're victims. Do you want to take on that role, or do you want to take on the role of someone who's successful? And they're not mutually exclusive either. Like just because you may have a victim mentality doesn't mean you don't have bad programming and subconscious beliefs that back up that victim mentality, because often they go hand in hand. So just to be clear, it's not just your conscious mind that needs to be changed. It's also your subconscious programming and beliefs that need to be changed as well.
I don't know how naive you have to be to think this way. If you have any knowledge of the world or any life experience, you should know that this is completely false. I've known a lot of rich people personally in my life, so I can tell you that in my personal experience, rich people tend to be the most selfish and bad-intentioned people I've ever known in my life.
Well, you sound pretty young, so I'm wondering how many rich people you actually have met or known. 1, 2? Because there's a lot of things that people misconstrue. Because it's true that rich people don't usually hang out with poor people for the fact that poor people are always trying to get something from them, usually their money or their time, as if they were entitled to it. So people of a certain financial class tend to hang out with other members of that financial class because those people don't want anything from them. They have their own. And plus, they're busy people. They don't have a lot of time for people either. And I can attest to this. I don't like it either. I much prefer the days when I could respond to everybody's comments. But at a certain point, you just don't have the time for it anymore. And sometimes you got to be forceful with people because they don't take no for an answer. And then they come off as being mean. And this is especially true with like your famous rich people. But there are a lot of wealthy people who aren't famous, that people aren't coming up to them all day and bothering them, but they're still busy. They didn't get wealthy by just sitting around. But again, this view is just kind of being generalized. I never said that all rich people are virtuous. I only said that there are far less greedy, evil, rich people than what society is led to believe. And that thinking of them in such a way is a limiting belief because it will prevent you from also being rich. That will prevent you from taking the actions necessary to accrue wealth. Not all rich people are greedy and evil, but not all rich people are good either. A more accurate description is that rich people do more good and evil in the world than anybody else because they have the most money, and money is influence. So they are the most influential. And if you want to be as well, then you should not view them as evil, because that belief will prevent you from doing so.
A lot of poor people are also selfish and bad-intentioned, but it's definitely a clear tendency in rich people's case. Thirdly, these people also think that rich people are rich because they are really hard-working. I can tell you also from personal experience, rich people are not hard-working. Most of them don't really do anything. There are some who work a lot, I'm not denying that, but it's not what led them to their wealth.
Well, what led them to their wealth then, if not for hard work? There are those who have inherited a lot of money. that didn't work for it, that were born into the right family. Again, it's not their fault. If being born into poverty isn't the fault of the person, then neither is being born rich. It's only fair, right? So we're going to discount those inheritors of the earth and only look at those who came into wealth. How did they do so? Well, they worked for it. Now, it's true that very wealthy people tend to work less once they've acquired their wealth because they've already done the work that they've needed to do. I mean, isn't the entire purpose of gaining the wealth, besides more influence, is taking control of your time, getting more time for yourself? This person obviously has not taken the laws of riches course, as I cover all of this in the program. Time management, how time is infinitely more valuable than money. And so rich people use their money to buy more time. But in the formulation of their company, they had to really work their butt off. And then as the company grew, they got employees to work for them to handle all the small stuff to free up their time. And yes, eventually some rich people do get to the point where they have other people run it all for them, while they sit on the beach drinking pina coladas and not having to put in nearly the work that they needed to when they first started. There are some like that, but most are those who work 60 to 80 hours a week so they don't have to work 40 for someone else. Or in the case of yours truly, I work a lot of hours, but I can't delegate the work that I do to other people. Can you imagine just somebody else doing these videos instead of me? Oh, I just hired them to do the work for me. That's not going to work because people didn't subscribe for an employee doing the video for me. You know, there's some things that just can't be delegated. The idea that wealthy people didn't work hard for their money is ridiculous. And it's a point I often hear from socialists and communists who have this weird limiting belief that anybody with any money must have gotten it by stealing it or manipulating people out of it. They don't seem to understand how the free market works, that it's the customers who decide what they're going to open their wallets and purses to purchase. That's how rich people get rich, by providing products and services to people to purchase or buy. It's not nearly as nefarious as these communists make it out to be. Did you just buy something from Amazon to be delivered to you? Well, you just gave Bezos more money. You just made him richer. So how did he scam you out of that? When you really look at it, it doesn't make much sense.
The most hardworking people typically work in the lowest paying jobs. They are not poor because of their poor mindset or laziness.
Yes and no. Of course, workers are the hardest workers because they're doing work for the employer. That's why they were hired to do the work, so that the employer doesn't have to do that task. And those tasks are usually going to be the labor aspect of the business, the assembly of the product, the lifting, the stocking, the shipping of the thing that they're selling. And this is somehow viewed as bad. Why? Now, perhaps lazy is the wrong word. I want to say it's indolent as a nice way of putting it. And I can understand why people get hung up on this part. One, because nobody likes to be called lazy. But also because the employees work so hard, how can they be lazy? That doesn't make any sense. Not that all workers are hardworking either, mind you, nor are they all lazy. There's a spectrum. But when it comes to improving themselves and improving their own life and looking for a way to get out of it and perhaps even a better job or starting their own business, that's where they get lazy. Most employed people will not look for a better job or any job for that matter unless they have to. Why? Because it's a lot of work and they're already working hard. And they don't want to put more work onto the work that they're already doing, even though that work can greatly impact their financial situation and better themselves. You can be the hardest worker in the mailroom or whatever it is that you're doing. It only means that you're going to stay doing that thing. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to become wealthy as an employee, working for someone else. The employer is going to become richer from your efforts, which is why I advocate that you become the employer or business owner, right? I mean, look, if rich people didn't work hard and they just sit around doing nothing, then why is it so difficult to become the boss? Why is it so difficult to become the employer or business owner? It should just practically happen itself, right? If what he's saying is true. No, it's extra work. It takes work to do this. You may spend a couple of years not making any money while you're setting up your business. What I think is going on here is that this person is just confused and is not really quite understanding it, and so it's not working out for him.
When it comes to Frater Xavier, I know his views are not this extreme. He adds some nuance to this. But his overall view on rich people is pretty positive. He thinks they are mostly selfless people who have really bright magical mindsets. I'm not saying there are no good rich people who also happen to have the correct mindset in an occult sense, but this is definitely not the majority. Of course, rich people who are in the public's eye will present themselves in this positive light. But it doesn't mean anything. Do you really believe that public figures show their genuine personalities in interviews? I mean, it looks like most people believe this. The amount of simping I see under the interviews of these Hollywood celebrities is insane. People treat them like gods because they say a few nice words. So based on this, I should never underestimate the average person's stupidity.
All right, somehow we got off of wealthy people and onto public celebrities, which technically, I guess, are wealthy people, but talk about setting the standard quite low. Of course, the people who are more public, that have fans running up to them all the time, everywhere that they go, are typically not going to be as friendly.
Head up. I got up to 14 million at one point. Sitting on, what do you want? What do you want? You need something? Right now. Right now, when I start shooting, that's when you want the picture? You couldn't have done it before I started shooting.
I could, but you were pissed.
No, but I'm more pissed now that you interrupted the damn frickin' thing. Like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
You wait till I start shooting?
Yeah, I waited.
Oh, my
PlayStation
God.
died. Waited till he started shooting.
Unbelievable, right? They'll never learn these people.
All these.
All right, I'll be right back with you because this guy decided to interrupt. Okay, let's go. I'm steaming right now. I just busted. Come on.
That's why I was trying to wait.
So you shouldn't fucking ask. That's the thing. You just leave me alone. That's the play. I'm here all month, buddy. I'm here all month.
I know you are.
You know?
I'm not, though. Thank you.
Okay, shit.
But they also can be. It just depends on what mood you catch them in. I got a buddy that all he does is take pictures with celebrities. That's all he does. Or at least that's all he posts. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say that he probably has thousands. But for every one he has, he had to approach a celebrity and get their picture with them. Now, I don't know what he's saying to him, but it must be a pretty potent script for it to work every single time. So they can't all be jerks. Again, it depends on how you catch them. But there's a lot more wealthy people than just celebrities in the public eye. Celebrity is kind of a subset of wealthy, and many aren't even wealthy because they're bad at managing money.
But anyway, I hope if you are in the occult, at least you can somewhat think for yourself.
Of course you should think for yourself. That's exactly what I'm trying to get people to do. So they're not thinking and doing the same as everybody else, which is getting them nowhere.
Don't think for a second that what you see in public interviews is genuine. I'm not saying it's never genuine, but understand this. Public figures have to present themselves in a positive light. It's linked to their career. But even if it's genuine, they rarely say anything insightful. It just sounds smart to people because of the halo effect. It sounds smart because a person says it who they already look up to. It's the same thing with ugly and beautiful people. An ugly guy does the same thing a handsome guy does, and the response to it will be completely different. There have been even studies that observe this phenomenon. But back to the point of this video, the world is not fair. Like not even a little bit. It's so unfair that I'm having a hard time finding an example of anything that's fair. And of course, magic should be the thing that can fix the unfairness of the world.
Now, I think I've already made a video railing on those who cry that everything's unfair. But I'm going to bottom line it for you. You can either cry about things being unfair, or you can do something about the way things are and change it. Both of which take energy to do, so you may as well spend the energy on something that's going to be productive and not something that's just going to spin your wheels in place. A lot of the victim mentality that we talked about earlier is all wrapped up in the idea that things just aren't fair. And this can have quite an impact, especially on a young person, in formulating an incorrect mindset. I mean, as a child, I experienced many injustices and unfair situations that had quite a lasting impact on me. But you really have to get over the idea that life is fair, because life isn't fair. As this person said before, not everyone is born in the riches. We all don't start out in the same situation. Life is a random, chaotic number generator. You never know what you're going to get. Some people are short. Some people are tall. Some are born rich. Some are born poor. Some aren't born at all. There's tragedy, accidents, mishaps, and misfortune. Trying to somehow make life fair when it is anything but is like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't quite fit, so it always needs to be forced, which is what you see in today's political climate and woke agenda. When fairness needs to be forced in order to fit, it then becomes tyranny.
The unfairness of our circumstances. But at this point, I'm not sure how much it can. Okay, let me tell you why I'm really bothered by this whole way of thinking.
It didn't work out and you're still poor.
I'm bothered by it because I've bought into it many years ago.
Well, there it is. There it is. There's the crux of the issue. This is why this video is being made. As he just admitted it. Like, this is the thing that bothers him. Because it didn't work for him. But as I said before, he's coming at it from a misinterpretation. And if you don't understand it, then how are you going to apply it?
I've put in so much work, time, and energy into many different ideas I've had throughout the years. The whole time I had this kind of mindset that, among others, Frater Xavier teaches. I've been practicing magic along with this mindset, and with all the work and efforts in the physical world that I've put into my skills, my studies, my businesses. None of it worked. I mean, it worked to some extent. It always worked just as little to convince me that all this effort worth it. I'm about to reach my breakthrough. I'm about to reach financial stability. But I never did.
Well, now you know why. It sounds like you were doing affirmations, and which can work, but man, it takes a long time to do affirmations to get them into the subconscious. Hypnosis and sigil magic are what you want to do to reprogram the subconscious. The best part about doing all this is all that hard work that we talked about it takes to set things up will seem like it's not hard work at all, because you're just going to do it anyway. That's the beautiful thing of reprogramming the subconscious. All it does is just execute the program to run. And so it's just done, and you're just kind of along for the ride. It does all the heavy lifting for you.
And I am not talking about becoming wealthy. I am talking about reaching the level of just being able to have a basic financial stability, to be able to live on my own and have the most basic things in life. I don't think just having the right mindset, doing magic, and doing a lot of work in the physical is enough for success.
All the self-help people will tell you this. All the financial people will tell you this, that failure is a prerequisite to success. Most people don't succeed on their first business or even their first couple. It takes a lot of failures to reach success. People are under the misconception that you just hop from failure to success in one bound. But it's more like rabbit hopping towards success, having multiple failures along the way to get there. And the real tragedy is that a lot of people give up right before their big breakthrough. You may have heard the statistic that most businesses fail within the first 5 years. And a lot of those are first-time businesses. Failure and success are the same thing, just in different degrees, according to Hermetic principle and duality itself. You just don't flip from one to the other usually. I mean, you can, and it has happened. There are always exceptions. But generally, people just get better gradually. Failure is something that you learn from. And then you take what you learn, and then you do better next time. And I try to do my best to help with that with the Finding Your Path and Purpose program, so that you could look at your astrological chart and find what would be the best fit for you for the greatest chances of success. And that's the free program over at mindandmagic.com. If you don't have it, go ahead and download it.
I'm starting to realize why I haven't been able to succeed all these years. I realized something that was in front of me the whole time, and I was aware of it from the start. Let's look at YouTube channel, for example.
YouTube is a horrible metric for this, because YouTube doesn't play fair in a world that's not fair. The algorithm is rigged, so that's not a really good metric on my hard work isn't paying off, because the algorithm is pre-programmed, much like our subconscious is. So while YouTube is a horrible metric for success and failure of your YouTube channel, it is a great example of how our subconscious works against us despite putting in the hard work. Because you could put in all of the work, but if your mindset is not one geared towards success, then much like the algorithm of YouTube, it's going to cause you to fail. It will hold you back. But if you do have the proper mindset towards success, including the subconscious programming, because that's what we're talking about, then it will propel you to success, much like the algorithm would propel you to the front page and the featured or recommended. So our subconscious is kind of like our own YouTube algorithm in a sense. I have to use metaphors to promote understanding. And I think everybody grasps the concept of a YouTube algorithm being programmed to promote certain things over others.
What are the most watched videos and channels? I guarantee you, most of them are the most low-effort, cringy, low IQ, brain-dead content. I think if I would have the mind of a crafty businessman, I would be able to come up with ideas that succeed. But I am not that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
I can't make myself do things that are against my personality, to do immoral things, to do cringeworthy things, to create worthless things.
Well, you don't have to. You need to find things that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, that you're good at, and then find a way to help serve others with that. Something that people would pay for. Now, I see that this channel is related to Magick. It only has a few videos on it, so this person may have given up. But, I could see why. You have to be able to produce the results in order to have a channel on Magick, because one, Magick is expensive. If the Magick's not paying for itself, you're not going to be doing it very long. And two, people want to hear from people who are getting results because they want results too, and they want to know how it's done. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing to be successful. In other words, you don't have to do the cringe stuff or the immoral stuff or whatever channels you're watching. I don't know what YouTube channels you're subscribed to see such things. You want to do things like successful people do, but you want to set yourself apart and do your own thing with it. It's like when I told my brother he should do what I do, and by that I meant start an online business, but he took it to mean do exactly what I do, starting a YouTube channel about magic, like becoming my competition and whatnot, and it didn't work out well for him. Because I could tell you this, if it's not in your chart, it's not going to work out. Or you're going to be stuck doing something that makes you miserable.
When people tell you that all you have to do to be successful in business is to create value, they don't mean actual value.
No, we mean actual value. Do you think that people want things that aren't of value? Right, value is what sells. The market dictates what is of value. It's basic supply and demand. People demand things that are valuable, that have value to them. And you're right, it doesn't necessarily need to be something that's valuable to you, the creator, the producer, but it can be. We're getting into sour grapes territory here. And if you don't know that reference, look up the Aesop fable, The Fox and the Grapes.
And that's what I've been wrong about all along. They don't even mean something that's valuable for people. That's something they need. No, they simply mean that you should create something that sells. Value is what sells, whatever that is. And it's mostly bad things, to be honest. Just think about all the things on the internet that make people addicted. Adult content, for example, or dopamine-providing content. All of them are bad things that have negative effects on a person's life, but they are all valuable things, at least in the eyes of business coaches. It's not value because it's actually a valuable thing or because it fulfills a need. It's value because it sells. On the other hand, there are some successful people who create actual value. Why are they successful, and why I'm not?
Well, we know what it is. We've gone over it already. And yeah, it's more of a subconscious block, or rather programming, that has not yet been addressed. As for what's valuable, that's always going to be subjective. One man's trash is another man's treasure. It's nothing to get upset over. It's just the way it is, and has always been.
Well, it could be just luck. But if there is no luck, since universal principles rule all the planes of existence, then it's either some really deep subconscious block on my part, or an external block from some kind of entity. I don't know which one is it. I can see both, honestly. But my whole point is that it's just not that simple.
No, it is that simple. I've simplified it down as much as I can for people. Does that mean everyone's going to get it? No, of course not. But I have done my best to make it easy to understand, logical so it makes sense, without being overly complex.
And I know I'm not the only one experiencing this. However, if you're just starting out, I really recommend you just fully commit first to Frater Xavier's lectures. This video wasn't meant to be an attack on his views because they really do work.
Yeah, it works, just not for him. No, it'll work for him too. He's just come at it the wrong way. And there are a few misconceptions about what mindset really entails, and that it's not just your conscious thoughts, it's mainly your subconscious thoughts. It's the most important. But all that's under the surface where your conscious mind isn't aware of it. And that's why we have to rely on other methods, such as hypnosis and sigil magic, and then also emulating the rich by doing the things that they do. And I have programs for most of this. I don't have the hypnosis program finished yet, and I don't know if it will be by the time this video is released on YouTube. But if it is, I'll knock a third of the price off of it, along with manifesting reality and the laws of riches. All of these things touch on what we're going over today. So use the links in this video to save on whichever ones we put up that relates to this, because it probably won't be just on the website. It'll have to go through this video.
My only problem is that it's minimal in my case, but it doesn't mean it won't work much better for you. I do think it works a lot better for a big portion of people. I just wanted to say that there are some people who have more complicated problems, who have done the work and haven't succeeded. It's not always just lazy people in a victim mindset. But anyway, I'm not giving up. I will figure this out and let you know as soon as I know the way out from this roadblock I've hit. Until then, stay magical.
You little pimp.
Yeah, it's really not anything unique. Everyone has problems. Everyone has issues and difficulties. It's just in how we go about solving them, and whether or not we're getting anywhere or just spinning our wheels in place, which is what an improper mindset will do. It will keep you stuck doing the same things over and over. So that's my take on it. I hope he's worked it out. I mean, it has been 9 months since this video was made, and if he's still out there listening, well, he now has an entire video dedicated to his video, and I hope it's of some use and helps. And if you found it useful and helpful, please drop a like. It does help with that almighty algorithm. Social media links will be on the screen momentarily, and I'll see you next time. Take care.